There are moments in life when everything feels uncertain, when your heart is heavy, your mind is overwhelmed, and you begin to question what you once believed so firmly. You make dua, but the answer seems delayed. You try to stay strong, but the pain keeps returning. And slowly, quietly, doubt begins to creep in, not loudly, not suddenly, but subtly, like a whisper that makes you question, is Allah really listening to me? But let me remind you of something powerful, something your heart already knows, even if your mind is struggling to accept it right now. The problem is not that Allah is distant, the problem is that your hardship is making you feel distant. And there is a difference. Doubt is something every human being experiences at some point in life, and it does not mean that your faith is broken or that you are a bad believer. In fact, the very presence of doubt can be a sign that your heart is alive, that your soul is engaged, and that your iman is being tested in a way that can elevate you if you respond correctly. You see, when everything is going smoothly, when life is comfortable and predictable, it is easy to say, I believe. It is easy to feel close to Allah, and it is easy to trust the process. But the real question is, what happens when things don't go your way? What happens when your plans fall apart, when your prayers seem unanswered, when the doors you were certain would open remain firmly closed? It is in those moments that doubt begins to whisper. It does not come as a loud voice telling you to give up completely. No, it is far more subtle than that. It comes in the form of questions. Why is this happening to me? Is Allah listening? Have my du'as been ignored? And before you realize it, these small questions begin to grow and they start to shake your qalb in ways you never expected. But understand this clearly, these whispers are not a sign that your faith is gone. They are a test to see whether your faith will grow stronger or weaker. Because true faith is not the absence of doubt. True faith is choosing to believe even when doubt is present. It is standing firm even when your qalb feels uncertain. It is continuing to make dua even when you do not see immediate results. This is what separates a strong believer from someone who gives up at the first sign of difficulty. The believer feels the same emotions, the same fears, the same uncertainties, but they respond differently. They acknowledge the doubt, but they do not allow it to take control. Think about it. If doubt was a sign of weakness, then why would so many of the strongest believers in history face moments of deep azmaish, trial? Why would they be placed in situations where everything around them seemed to contradict what they hoped for? It is because Allah uses these moments to purify the heart, to remove arrogance, to build sincerity, and to strengthen reliance on Him alone. Without these tests, faith would remain shallow, dependent only on ease and comfort. But Allah wants your faith to be deeper than that. He wants it to be unshakable. When doubt enters your heart, it is an opportunity to turn back to Allah more sincerely than ever before. An opportunity to question not Allah's plan, but your own understanding. Because often, the issue is not that Allah is not responding. The issue is that we expect Him to respond in a specific way, at a specific time, according to our limited perspective. And when that does not happen, we begin to doubt. But who are we to define how and when Allah should act? Doubt can either push you away from Allah or pull you closer to Him. It depends entirely on how you respond. If you allow it to grow unchecked, it will create distance, it will weaken your connection, and it will make your qalb restless. But if you confront it with remembrance, with dua, with reflection, it can actually strengthen your iman in ways that ease never could. Because when you choose to trust Allah despite your doubts, you are proving that your faith is not conditional. You are showing that your belief is not based only on what you see, but on what you know deep within your heart, that Allah is Al-Hakim, the most wise, and that His plan is always perfect, even when it is not immediately visible. There is a difference between having doubt and living in doubt. Having doubt is a natural human experience. Living in doubt is a choice. And every single time you feel that uncertainty creeping in, you have a choice to make. Will you entertain those thoughts and let them grow, or will you silence them with trust, with patience, and with the certainty that Allah knows what you do not know? Your weakness is not in feeling unsure. Your weakness would be in allowing that uncertainty to define your relationship with Allah. Because at the end of the day, your faith is not meant to be perfect. It is meant to be tested, refined, and strengthened through moments exactly like these. Hardship is something no one willingly asks for, yet it is something every single one of us will face in one way or another. It comes in different forms: loss, heartbreak, failure, uncertainty, delays, pain that no one else can see. And when it arrives, it often feels heavy, confusing, and sometimes even unbearable. In those moments, the first reaction many people have is to question, why me? But what if the question itself needs to change? What if instead of asking, why is this happening to me, we begin to understand that nothing happens to us randomly and everything happens by the precise will and wisdom of Allah? You see, hardship is not a mistake. It is not an accident. It is not something that slipped through without purpose. Every difficulty you are experiencing right now has been allowed by Allah, measured perfectly for you, tailored specifically to your life, your strength, your journey. And that alone should change the way you look at your struggles. Because if the one who created you, the one who knows you better than you know yourself, has chosen this path for you at this moment in your life, then there is wisdom behind it, even if you cannot see it yet. The reality is, we tend to associate goodness with ease and hardship with something negative. When things go well, we say Allah is blessing us. But when things become difficult, we begin to feel as though something is wrong, as though we are being punished or neglected. But that is not always the case. In fact, sometimes the greatest blessings come wrapped in the most painful experiences. Sometimes the very thing you are struggling with right now is the means through which Allah is bringing you closer to Him, purifying your heart and preparing you for something far greater than what you could have imagined for yourself. Think about how hardship changes you. It humbles you. It makes you realize how little control you actually have. It pushes you to turn back to Allah in ways you may not have done during times of ease. When everything is going well, it is easy to become distracted, to become comfortable, to forget. But when hardship strikes, suddenly your du'as become more sincere, your qalb becomes softer, and your connection with Allah becomes more real. That transformation is not insignificant. That is part of the wisdom behind the difficulty. Hardship also teaches patience, and patience is not just about waiting. It is about maintaining your trust in Allah while you wait. It is about holding on to your iman even when your situation does not change immediately. And that is one of the most powerful qualities a believer can develop. Because life will always have ups and downs, and if your faith is only strong when things are easy, then it will constantly fluctuate. But when you learn to remain patient during hardship, you build a level of stability in your faith that cannot be shaken by temporary circumstances. Another reality is that we often only see what is in front of us. We see the pain, the delay, the disappointment, but we do not see what Allah is protecting us from. We do not see the unseen consequences of the things we desired. Perhaps what you wanted so badly would have led to greater harm. Perhaps the path you were hoping for would have taken you further away from Allah. Perhaps the delay you are frustrated by right now is actually saving you from something you are not even aware of. Allah's knowledge is complete while ours is limited. So when something does not go according to our plan, it does not mean the plan has failed. It means there is a greater plan in place. Hardship is also a means of elevation. It is a way through which sins are forgiven, ranks are raised, and a person becomes stronger internally. No one grows without being challenged. No one becomes resilient without facing difficulty. And Allah, in His mercy, does not leave you the way you are. He refines you, shapes you, strengthens you, and sometimes that process is uncomfortable, sometimes it is painful, but it is always purposeful. You may not understand your situation right now. You may feel lost, overwhelmed, or even exhausted from trying to make sense of it all. But understand this, just because you do not see the wisdom does not mean it is not there. It simply means the picture is bigger than what you can currently perceive. And one day, whether in this life or the next, everything will be made clear. Every tear, every moment of patience, every silent prayer, it will all have meaning. So when hardship enters your life, do not see it as something meaningless. Do not see it as a sign that Allah has turned away from you. Instead, begin to shift your perspective and recognize that this too is part of Allah's plan. A plan that is perfect, even when it feels painful. A plan that is designed not to break you, but to build you into someone stronger, closer, and more connected to Him than ever before. There is a unique kind of peace that does not come from solutions, does not come from everything falling into place, and does not come from life suddenly becoming easy. It is a peace that settles deep within the heart, even when the storm is still raging outside, even when questions remain unanswered, and even when the situation has not yet changed. This peace comes from trusting Allah, Not partially, not conditionally, but completely, trusting Him in a way that allows your heart to rest even before you see any outcome. Many people think peace will come once their problems are solved. They believe that once the difficulty is removed, once the dua is answered exactly as they hoped, once life aligns with their expectations, then they will finally feel calm. But the reality is, if your peace is dependent on outcomes, then it will always be fragile, because life is constantly changing. There will always be another challenge, another uncertainty, another moment that tests your patience. So if your heart only finds peace when things go your way, it will never truly be at peace. True tranquility comes from something deeper. It comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you are under the care of Allah. It comes from believing that even if things are unclear right now, they are not out of control. It comes from understanding that Allah's plan is not just about the end result, but about every step along the way. And when that understanding settles into your heart, something begins to shift. The anxiety may not disappear completely, the problem may still exist, but your qalb is no longer restless in the same way. Trusting Allah does not mean you stop feeling emotions. It does not mean you no longer feel sadness, fear, or uncertainty. You are human and those feelings are natural. But what changes is how those emotions affect you. Instead of overwhelming you, they become something you manage with patience and reliance. Instead of spiraling into fear, you find yourself returning to Allah again and again, reminding yourself that He is in control, that He is aware, that He has not forgotten you. There is something incredibly powerful about surrender. Not the kind of surrender that comes from giving up, but the kind that comes from letting go of the need to control everything. Because one of the biggest sources of stress is the constant desire to figure everything out, to know exactly how things will unfold, to ensure that life goes according to our expectations. But the truth is, we were never meant to carry that burden. That responsibility belongs to Allah alone. When you truly trust Allah, you begin to release that weight. You still make effort, you still take action, you still do your best, but you no longer tie your peace to the results. You understand that your role is to try and Allah's role is to decide. And whatever He decides is khair, even if it does not immediately feel that way. That mindset alone can transform the way you experience difficulty. You may still be waiting. You may still be hoping for things to change. But instead of feeling consumed by worry, you start to feel a quiet sense of reassurance. A feeling that even if things take time, even if the trek is longer than you expected, you are not alone in it. Allah is with you, guiding you, supporting you, and writing every detail with purpose. Sometimes the peace that comes from trusting Allah is more valuable than the solution itself. Because solutions can be temporary, but the strength and calmness you develop through trust can stay with you for life. It shapes the way you handle future challenges. It builds a qalb that does not easily break under pressure. It creates a connection with Allah that is not dependent on circumstances. And the most beautiful part is this peace can exist even in the middle of your hardship. You do not have to wait for everything to be perfect. You do not have to wait for all your questions to be answered. Right now, in this very moment, despite everything you are facing, you can choose to trust Allah. You can choose to remind yourself that He knows what you do not know, that He sees what you cannot see, and that His timing is always precise. That choice, that shift in perspective is where peace begins. It may start small, it may feel fragile at first, but the more you nurture it, the stronger it becomes. And eventually you will find that even when life is uncertain, your heart is not as shaken as it once was. Because it has learned to rely on something far more stable than circumstances. It has learned to rely on Allah. Every difficulty that enters your life carries something within it that you cannot immediately see. On the surface, all you may feel is pain, confusion, frustration, or even a sense of loss. It can feel heavy, like something that only takes away from you rather than gives. But the reality is far deeper than what appears on the surface. Within every hardship, there is hidden khair, there is growth, there is a transformation taking place that you may not recognize until much later. Human beings are naturally inclined to judge situations based on immediate feelings. If something feels good, we assume it is good. If something feels painful, we assume it is bad. But life does not work in such a simple way. There are moments when what you desperately wanted turns out to be harmful for you. And there are moments when what you feared or disliked becomes the very thing that benefits you the most. This is why your understanding is limited while Allah's wisdom is complete. He sees the full picture while you only see a small part of it. When you go through a difficult time, it is easy to focus on what you are losing. Maybe you lost an opportunity, a relationship, a sense of stability, or even a version of yourself that you were comfortable with. And that loss hurts. It shakes you. It makes you question everything. But at the same time, something else is happening quietly in the background. You are being shaped, refined, and prepared in ways that ease could never achieve. Hardship has a way of revealing truths that comfort hides. It shows you who you really are when things are not going your way. It exposes your mustawa of patience, your ability to trust, your willingness to keep going even when you feel like stopping. It also reveals the reality of people around you, who stands by you, who understands you, and who fades away when things become difficult. These are lessons that cannot be taught through ease. They can only be experienced through challenge. There is also a kind of strength that is only born through struggle. A person who has never faced difficulty may appear strong, but their strength has not been tested. It is only when you are placed in a situation that pushes you beyond your comfort zone, that forces you to endure, that makes you question your limits, that real strength begins to develop. And even though it may feel overwhelming in the moment, you are actually becoming more resilient, more aware, and more capable than you were before. Sometimes the khair in your hardship is not something external that you gain, but something internal that you become. You become more patient, you become more humble, you become more connected to Allah. You begin to understand the dunya in a different way, realizing that it is not meant to be perfect, not meant to fulfill every desire, but meant to test, to teach, and to guide you. This shift in perspective is one of the greatest forms of growth a person can experience. There are also hidden protections in hardship that you may never fully realize. Perhaps something you wanted so badly was not meant for you because it would have led to greater pain down the line. Perhaps a door was closed because another better door is being prepared for you at the right time. But because you cannot see what lies ahead, you focus only on what has been taken away. If you could see the unseen, if you could understand what Allah has saved you from, your perspective would completely change. Growth is rarely comfortable. In fact, it is often painful. Just like a muscle grows through resistance and strain, your character and your faith grow through difficulty. Without that pressure, without that challenge, there would be no development. You would remain in the same state, never pushed to become better, never forced to reflect, never encouraged to turn back to Allah with sincerity. And sometimes the greatest al-khair is the way hardship brings you closer to Allah. When everything is going well, it is easy to become distracted, to rely on yourself, to forget the deeper purpose of your existence. But when you are struggling, when you feel like you have nowhere else to turn, you find yourself returning to Allah with a sincerity that is unmatched. Your du'as become more heartfelt, your connection becomes stronger, and your reliance becomes real. That closeness to Allah is something that cannot be replaced by anything in this world. You may not see the good right now. You may still be in the middle of the difficulty, still trying to make sense of it all, and that is okay. Not every lesson is immediate. Not every benefit is visible in the present moment. Some things take time to unfold. Some things only become clear when you look back and realize how far you have come, how much you have changed, and how certain experiences shaped you in ways you could not have imagined at the time. So instead of asking, where is the good in this? Begin to trust that the good exists, even if it is hidden. Begin to believe that your hardship is not empty, not meaningless, not without purpose, because Allah does not place you in a situation without wisdom. And even though the pain is real, even though the struggle is difficult, there is always something within it that is working in your favor, something that is contributing to your growth, something that is preparing you for what is yet to come.